This is a class about starting your own computer business. It's class number 101. It's the very beginning. We're going to talk today about markets, about demographics, and about what I call the small business advantage. Things that you can do as a small business that a big retailer can't do that'll put you ahead of the game. As you may know, I have a computer retail store and a training center in East Hampton, Connecticut. It's called On Track Computer. If you're ever in the area of East Hampton, Connecticut, which may be doubtful, please visit, though. I'd love to speak with you and kind of catch up, have a cup of coffee. If not, please visit us at ontrackcomputer.com. And just a side note, the text of this particular training can be found at our webpage, arnieoldcomputerguy.com. So please feel free to go there if you want to look at the written word instead of listen. As you may know, I've been doing computer repair since about 1997 in this business, and I've personally fixed over 10,000 PCs and Macs. So along the way, I've learned a thing or two about this business, and in many cases, I learned it through trial and error, through experience. I learned it the hard way. I've taught hundreds of students and helped them to pass their A+ computer repair technician certification, and this particular class, starting off your own business, was prompted by conversations that I've had with my students and graduates about the practical steps that you can take to start and operate a computer repair business. If you're thinking about doing computer repair, either part-time or full-time, I'd like to share some tips and some advice to help you make the right decision for you and to help you to be as profitable and professional as possible. Before we begin, I just need to make a few assumptions with you. I assume that you have some computer experience and some ability. Everyone these days seems to know about computer, or at least have a brother-in-law or friend that knows about computers. But if you were to ask those people, when it comes to passing a pretty basic exam of industry standard concepts, most of them that are self-proclaimed experts would fall short and fail that exam. So I'm going to assume that you have some experience, some real experience, whether it's with the A+ certification or just industry repair experience of a few years that's given you the skills and confidence to think about being your own boss. In addition to teaching computer skills, I'm also a trainer and coach for people looking to start home-based businesses in general, so I have a unique perspective on the challenges that you might face in starting a small business, and I'd like to share that with you. This will be especially important if you're transitioning from being what I call a W-2 employee, where you're used to getting a paycheck, to suddenly owning your own place. The second point that we need to agree on is that you'll be running a business, not a hobby. You can do a business part-time for 10 or 15 hours a week, and we'll talk about that, but you probably won't do it very well in your spare time, which might be a little spotty and irregular. Customers, you see, deserve and expect consistency, and keeping your appointments and having some type of calling hours is an easy way to build trust. There's so much to consider in starting a business that it wouldn't fit in one session, so today we're just going to talk about your choices for how to operate your business. I'll give you some questions to think about, whether it's part-time or full-time, whether you do repairs from your own store or from your home. Those are two questions and considerations that'll keep us busy for a little while today. I look forward to working with you. You see, I didn't really have the benefit of a mentor, someone who knew the ropes and who could ask me the right questions that would lead me to the right answer for me. I hope to be that guide for you in the exciting process of starting to turn your experience and knowledge into money. So, I guess that's the first thing. The purpose of business is to make money. May be obvious to you, but we want to establish your business model, the way that you decide to do business, to be one in which you can translate as much of your effort into profit. In a way, this isn't too difficult with computers because the need for capable, talented people is so great. But there are pitfalls and distractions to watch out for along the way. Remember, though, at the bottom line, our purpose will be to make decisions that ultimately make you money. We're not talking about starting a business to bolster your ego so that you can have your name in lights or in some billboard ad. Or we're not talking about starting a business so that you can brag to your friends and family. Your business is in the business of making money. To make money, your business and every business needs to provide a service. It may be to sell a product, it may be to use your specialized knowledge to help someone solve a repair problem. But it's important to remember that what you bring to the table is this product or service, and that your customers need to view that as being valuable enough to pay money for. Like it or not, there's a certain image or expectation that people have for how you will look, how you'll be dressed, how you'll behave, how you communicate, how you speak. And we'll talk more about that in another session. But for now, the service that we've spoken about is repairing computers, and we want to do it professionally. Every geographic area is slightly different. Today, one thing that's common, though, is that people need computers. The demand is pretty universal. I think you'd agree. Individuals use them for shopping, to stay organized, and to stay in touch with others through social media, things like Facebook and Twitter, and also to use email and to look things up on the internet. Businesses are even more dependent on computers, staying in touch with their customers, doing business accounting, and researching information. Although smartphones keep most of us in touch with these pocket-sized devices, they have not yet replaced the luxury and practicality of a large screen and a real keyboard and mouse to communicate with. So let's talk about markets. The first thing to consider is your market. Who are the people that live around you that might want your service, and what is their demographic? A demographic is kind of a stereotype of what your average customer might look like. Here's an example. I live in a small town next to several other small towns that are all suburbs to the city of Hartford. My town has maybe 15,000 people in it, but the collective area of the surrounding 5 small towns has close to 100,000 people. Most of these folks have jobs in the city, and they work with large businesses, and most are homeowners of modest 2 or 3 bedroom homes. There's also a growing population of senior citizens in the area. People in my area have been affected, but not crippled by the stalled-out economy. They're watching their dollars, but they still have some money available, which used to be called disposable income, for entertainment and enjoyment. They dine out, they travel, they vacation, and nearly all of them have computers. There are many young families who have several computers in their home, and the kids are increasingly required to use a computer to do their homework for public school. Mouth not working. Why am I boring you with all this? Because it's about the most important thing that you can know about your business. Who are your local customers? In my area, for example, most people keep running into each other. We see each other at the local coffee shop, at the one supermarket in town, getting ice cream, at the school soccer games, and in line at the local post office. My computer repair business, my business model, is to treat every customer like their family. In a way, they are, because we're going to bump into each other around town at some point. I've chosen to go out of my way to earn trust, and I trust my customers. I have a very high rate of repeat business. I accept credit cards, but I also receive cash and often checks. In 15 years, I've never had a bad check. Now, take a look at where you are and who is around you and see if some of those same rules apply to you, or perhaps you're in a different type of area, a different market, and a different demographic. If you're in a suburb, and hopefully an affluent suburb, people will be paying more with plastic. They're probably going to be a bit more demanding and maybe entitled, but the good news is that they're willing to pay for exceptional, over-the-top good service. They may want you to do a repair in their home to avoid the bother of bringing it into your shop, even if it means substantially more money. If you're in a city, you have a huge base of potential customers in a very small geographic area. An urban area, however, can mean the necessity for more rules and policies in your business to avoid being taken advantage of. Your costs for a vehicle, insurance, an alarm system, and overall security might be much higher. A friend of mine has a store in a city an hour away, a computer store, and I shudder at his rates. He just needs to charge more because his costs are so high. I think that my customers would run out of his store if it were in my town. But there's no one right way. See, you need to have a business model that'll make you money and it works in your market. So give this some thought. Maybe write down on a piece of paper how large your town is, how large the area that you want to serve is, the type of demographic, who lives there, how wealthy or affluent or impoverished they are, what the type of computer ownership is, both for people, for consumers, and for business. The next thing to take a look at is to size up your competition. Who will you be competing with in your area? Some of the big box stores like Best Buy and Staples in my area in the Northeast United States are now in the computer repair business. This is an add-on profit center for them and not their primary business, but People trust them as retailers, and they use this brand recognition to add on services like walk-in or home computer repair. In my more rural location, these stores are 25 minutes away, so I have the home team advantage right away in terms of convenience and travel. One of the things that I found when I shop at my competition, which you should do, is that they all charge a diagnostic fee. So here's an example of something that I can do differently as a small business. A diagnostic fee is to say that there's a charge just to drop off the computer. And even if you don't have them perform any work, you'll be buying back your computer from them for about $60. As I thought this through, and I spoke with many of my customers who had to pay this fee but opted out of the expensive repair, just about everyone felt angry with this practice. They felt taken. After all, a different model, an attorney or an accountant or an auto repair shop, will probably take some free time with you in the hope of earning your business. So I decided to try offering free estimates. Now, my urban store friends who own stores are screaming at that idea because it seems like less revenue, and perhaps it is. But here's what I found. By offering a no-charge diagnosis, when someone calls and asks what we charge just to look at their computer, I pause for a moment, and I say, $0. And I tell them how I tried to get it lower than that, but so far I haven't been successful. I tell them that we'll have a look for free, and we'll give them a quotation. If they want to go ahead with the repair, they know exactly what it's going to cost. If it sounds like too much, they have no charge at all. Now, after the first 3 months of doing this, out of hundreds of repair estimates, how many do you think decided not to go ahead with the computer repair? Approximately. Well, here's the answer. The answer is 1. So it didn't really hurt my business one bit, and it let me give my customers a risk-free invitation to visit that they couldn't refuse. So a quick review. Be sure and size up your market and size up your competition and take a look at what your demographic is, what the average person in your area might look like in terms of income, number of computers they own, and perhaps some of their preferences. And decide what is most important to your customers, the price that they're willing to pay, the turnaround time, etc. And decide then what you can afford and what you can offer as a small business person that no large store or that your competition can't begin to touch. You can begin to picture your business and the advantage that it will offer. Remember that in a small business, you can respond to a trend or you can overindulge your customers in ways that a large business can't even begin to think about. Your personal services and the ability to adapt to special requests are your assets. So build a picture of what your computer business looks like. Another thing you might think about is perhaps being available evening hours or being available on weekends when other stores aren't. Those are niches that can really serve you well and can put you on the map and differentiate you and give a special advantage to your customers. So, part 2. Let's take a look at a few trends. Back in the late 90s, and I know that sounds like ancient history to you, I was mostly replacing CD drives and power supplies and dial-up modems on computers. The internet hadn't really hit in a big way, and people were just using it to dial up and take forever to get their email. But they were beginning to see the value of that. When people dropped off their computers, they left them an average of 7 to 10 days with me. 5 years later, in the early 2000s, maybe 2003, viruses and spyware were running rampant, and Windows XP was the main operating system. And people were getting more anxious about their computers, and the internet was starting to make everyone's time frame a little bit more compressed. People were in more of a hurry. So a few days turnaround was more common. Today, there are nowhere near as many virus or spyware infections, but people instead need their Wi-Fi set up, their notebook screens and keyboards replaced, and they are terribly impatient. If I could turn the computer around in the same day or the next day, that's best. So a few of these trends are going to go against making a killing in the computer repair business today. The most important ones are that we have now a much better self-healing operating system with Windows 7 and with the Mac OS X. So there are fewer software repairs. And There's also another trend, a declining cost for PCs and notebook and laptop computers. I'd say that, as of the time of this recording, that the average desktop system with a monitor is probably about $650, $700. I just picked up some basic but decent notebooks that I'm using for my students for about $400 each, and I probably could have gotten them even for less. So when a new computer system costs $400 to $600, most customers sort of have a cap or limit that they're going to spend on repairs. They won't be too excited about spending more than $200 or possibly $250 on their 3-year-old system. After all, for that $250 motherboard replacement, they'll end up with a brand new 3-year-old computer. For just twice that amount, they could have a shiny new model. So there are a lot of arguments that we could have with customers, but the rule of thumb is that you can never win an argument with a customer. There are some arguments for going ahead with the repair. They could, in addition to the cost of the computer, have hundreds of dollars of software installed. And it also might be costly to back up and to move their files to the new machine, but most people are just thinking black and white, $250 to fix the old computer, $500 for a new one, let's toss it. So in thinking about the computer repair business, the PC repair business, we're basically dealing with $100 to $200 repairs. Of course, I'm consistently stunned that people will pay some big box store $650 to replace the hard drive on a 5 or 6-year-old computer, but I wouldn't want to be relying on a business model that banks on fleecing or deceiving my customers. That would be a one-time sale. It'll leave them with a bitter taste in their mouth. And what we're looking to do is to build loyalty, to be fair, and to build word-of-mouth advertising, which is your strongest no-charge advertising. So we've talked about identifying your market and their demographics. What can they afford? And the things that they value. We spoke of trends that make computer repairs cap at about $200 to $250 for PCs before people will at least decide to replace instead of repair. So there's another trend that's going on against us in computer repair these days, and that is that it's becoming a commodity. Here's what I mean. A dozen years ago, computer repair people were professionals with skills and specialized knowledge. Using a different example, a chef who had studied for years at his or her craft excels in their profession. A trend that has crept up into the computer repair is replacing professionals with systems. Using that chef example, a fast food chain like Pizza Hut or McDonald's can deliver food that's consistently good tasting or consistent in its presentation, but it's prepared by teenagers who earn minimum wage and who haven't even ever taken a culinary course. They're essentially just human hands, kind of cogs in a wheel, plugging into a system, a set of rules that someone devised. They're not really cooking food. They're timing and flipping and flapping and squirting ketchup and mustard in an assembly line. A similar influence has overtaken us in the field of computer repair. As national retailers looked at expanding into this computer repair market, they realized that the on-site home computer repair market would fetch fees of $100 an hour or more. But their business model was not to deliver $100 of value or even $50 of value to their customers. In the kind of greed that I think only could be conceived by profit-driven decisions, they decided to dress up teenagers as technicians and to incentivize them to upsell customers on often unnecessary products and add-ons. They were trained in a kind of flowchart system of a half a dozen repair procedures that they learned how to perform. Most often, the subject computer was deemed too ill to cure, and the on-site diagnostic bill of $125 was given, and then the upsell games began. This is the technological equivalent of sending out a minimum wage worker to take vital signs and pronounce a diagnosis instead of sending out a licensed doctor to make a house call. Suddenly, everyone needs the new medicine that the visiting technician just happens to have in their vehicle. I'm being a little sarcastic. I don't mind the idea of making money, but I strongly object to deceiving the public. And sending out a teenager with a day's training on a sales mission and charging a customer over $100 for the visit, where they're disguised as a professional consultation, is really distressing to me. The fact of life today is that skilled tradespeople are in demand, and they're expensive. Whether it's a journeyman electrician, a plumber, or a licensed certified auto mechanic, it costs a lot to get the benefit of their experience and specialized training. I really object to dressing up a person who barely qualifies as a donut shop clerk and representing them as a seasoned professional. Anyway, rant over. I want you to know what you're up against. So, the good news, as an entry-level technician with competent skills, you don't need to earn as much as an IT professional that might command $75 or $100 per hour to do some specialized work. You're probably happy with $40 or $50 an hour. And in starting out, that's another one of your market advantages. You can work for less and still offer good value to your customers. People like a deal. And as a starting off professional, you can charge less, especially if you don't have the overhead of a storefront, which brings me to my last point. You want to make a decision between working from your home or setting up a computer repair store. Some of it depends on your direction, whether you see yourself as a growing business with lots of employees in the near future, but I'd strongly try to make a case for you for working from home, keeping expenses down, and setting up a business presence with your phone and website and professionalism. When you go to a customer's home or business, which is what you'll be doing at least half of the time, they have no idea that you even have a store, which is now empty of you, so that would be a waste. One thing that I did, and that's worked for my students very well, is to offer free local pickup and delivery. That way you can harvest these broken computers instead of having customers drag them in and you having to sit around waiting for them. It takes time and it costs you a bit more to be in the pickup and deliver business, but hey, it beats the alternative, which is to sit around on your hands in a store waiting for someone to show up. You can just promote it and give it a spin as a free pickup and delivery in our local area. It looks like a benefit to your customers, and it is a benefit to your customers, and it saves you time. Just be sure to have a professional presence, be dressed sharp, have receipts for the computer, business cards, things like this. And we'll cover this in the next sessions. So, because of the declining market for computer repair, I'd strongly suggest that you run lean and work from home. That means that you'll save rent, money on signs, insurance, money on a second internet connection, and possibly some phone service, and a lot of time being tethered to your store hours, which to me ends up feeling like having a job again, losing the time flexibility that you might have achieved in being self-employed. All of these costs are easily $1,000 to $1,500 a month that you won't have to spend on feeding your store, and it's $1,000 to $1,500 a month extra that you'll be able to put in your pocket. But just do me a favor. Whatever you charge, be sure that you give your customers good value. Be fair with them, and enjoy getting paid a figure that's much closer to what you are genuinely worth. I wish you good luck. I'll see you in the next session where we discuss avoiding the half-dozen mistakes that new business owners often make. Remember, I'm Arnie, the old computer guy. Thanks for visiting. It's been great teaching you, and good luck with that new computer repair business.